Okay. So bringing everyone up to speed. My last stream on this channel was a 5-hour Lollapalooza covering 9 videos, which was a Golden Coin 100, first in the live chat, Gold Coin onto thee. Golden Coin, I can't remember if I saw you in the last live chat, so I don't know if you saw the last video. So bringing you up to speed, at least. The last video on this channel was 5 hours covering 9 videos by one J.Scott Garibay, which was a mere sampling of the recent videos that he's done regarding Golden Coin 100, grabbing that, covering your bases, you know what I mean? A rolling golden coin gathers no moss. First on Twitch, gold coin on today, right? Destined to be more valuable than Bitcoin based on, rarity. Yeah, Mario Heat, we're doing this again. Oh, like you hate it. Scott is my DSP, my new DSP. Catch the fever. Catch the fever. Silver medal onto thee on YouTube. No Golden Coin 100 has these two gold coins covering YouTube and Twitch. Mario, don't you sleep on Twitch, baby. Folks, while I have you here at the outset, let me be a little bit professional and remind you, take a look at the description box below. Many ways to support me. Ha ha ha. My Patreon has no tiers. Get involved. Jump on in at $1. Everyone else hasn't. Don't forget, you can buy me a cup of coffee virtually. There you go. And hey, or just like, comment, and subscribe. We're doing this thing now. Hey, TTRPG YouTube. You want to watch TTRPG content? Well, you don't want to watch. I mean, we obviously know you don't want to watch TTRPG YouTube content. But come on. Campfire watching of J.Scott Garibay, not to mock. Grab that silver medal, not to demean. We love him. He's our LOL, COW. It's a pejorative term that I don't like, just using it to communicate. Is he trolling us? Is he sincere? Is he our champion of the year? Orion Acaba, not on Critical Role for over 8 or 9 years. I'm learning more about the Orion Acaba and Critical Role than I ever wanted to. I loathe. Breaking news, Netanyahu just announced he'll stop bombing the Middle East if Matthew Mercer hires Orion Acaba for season 4. I regret everything I ever said about J.Scott Garibay. Sent by the Lord. I recant. But we'll get to it. Listen, Prophet, Madman, could Mohammed move a mountain, or was that just PR? I am not here to run afoul of YouTube's terms of service. I'm here to tell you I was watching these videos anyway. Compelled. And while some may kvetch about the content, I'm here to tell you there are many people on YouTube that we watch fascinated. But I will say to J.Scott, Scott, there are many people who seem to have an attitude. DSP, King Cobra JFS, Amberlynn Reed, Foodie Beauty, peace be upon her name, who seem to think that the rules of YouTube are, David Wilcock, very good, that the rules of YouTube are you can do and say whatever you want to, Von Helton, that the rules of YouTube are you can do and say whatever you want to, and no one is allowed to say, hey, I disagree with you. I think your behavior is abhorrent. I think you're wrong for doing and saying what you're saying and doing. I think you are a fool. And I'll say this as a word of warning to Mr. Garibay. Hey, those people have learned. That's not how it works, especially when the man, take it for what it's worth, has identified himself as a public figure. The rules regarding public figures and how they are treated in the public space are what they are. But it is my intention to keep it classy, sunshine. Watch the videos with you in the spirit and under the rubric and rules of fair use. This will be a transformative work where I look at, analyze, and discuss the content of J.Scott Garibay and talk about it with you, knowing that I'm not a psychoanalyst or a mental health professional. It is not my place to diagnose the individual. I will just discuss what I see with you and we'll talk about it. If he's putting on an act, I will say he's doing so at the risk of being looked at as a fool. And he's a human being and I respect him. But it is what it is. So without further ado, this is part two. Part one being, as I said, a 5-hour marathon where I looked at just 9 videos that he had made, what I thought were the choice nugs. I may have missed some things. We're going to look at, I think, 4 videos today, time allowing. Mario Heat on Twitch says, I just can't believe there exists a person on planet Earth leading a crusade to bring back Orion Acaba, critical role, fascinating stuff. And as I said, I'm learning more about Orion Acaba and J.Scott Garibay's desire to bring him back to critical role. The thing that I learned that was most fascinating to me, taking a look at a video that actually J.Scott Garibay recommended, a video by a guy called Super Geek Mike, I believe the name is, was that right before termination from critical role, also bear in mind that I learned that Orion Acaba didn't leave at the end. It wasn't like a season ended or a campaign ended and then he just didn't return. He was summarily dismissed mid-campaign. There were problems. And right before he was dismissed, apparently he came onto set with an actual wrist-bound flamethrower. An active wristbound flamethrower that someone had made for him. And the reporting, if accurate, was this wristbound flamethrower had an active igniter and had fluid in it. Meaning that of the things that Orion Acaba was dismissed for, it included bringing a dangerous weapon to set, exposing his, co-stars to active physical danger. I've identified myself as an attorney at law. I can tell you that one of the areas that I practice in is the area of law known as workers' compensation. Speaking about New Jersey workers' compensation, not legal advice, one of the things that people can be fired for that's known as being fired with cause is bringing a weapon to the workplace. That'll get you fired. Little context I didn't know before. Anyway, here we go. That was a fascinating thing that when I learned, I was like, holy. So, look, hey, here's a theory. I think that we also know that there's a video about a person that one time had the opportunity to game with J.Scott Garibay, whose take on gaming with J.Scott Garibay may lead us to have some insight that part of the reason that J.Scott Garibay is on this quest is he may personally identify, I don't know, this is speculation, he may personally identify with an individual who has been told, you cannot return to this table. This friend group chooses to no longer game with thee. So part of his energy, possibly, of identifying Orion Acaba as an individual who has been, quote unquote, exiled by evil pieces of shit, is that this may have something to do with his own personal story. Also, at the risk of sounding overly involved, I have, because I've been commenting on J.Scott Garibay's videos, I can tell you that I think that I'm learning about J.Scott's upload thing. And I know that people on YouTube, on the TTRPG YouTube community, had speculated at one point that he was like doing DoorDash or something. I think I know his upload schedule, and I believe that I know and understand that he's filming his videos on his commute to and from some job, and then uploads 3 to 4 videos that he films on his commute over the course of the day, and he does not film on the weekends when he's with his family. I know this because on April 4th, I said to him, I'm just wondering about how many videos you're going to make about this subject tomorrow, to which he responded, none. April 4th was a Friday. True to his word, he uploaded no videos over the weekend, but come Monday, 5 videos. So he's already uploaded 2 videos today. So before I end up having to do another work day covering J.Scott Garibay, let's get the show on the road. Fair use, fair use, fair use, yada, yada, yada. Let's see what happens. Don't forget, folks, if you enjoy this content, like, comment, and subscribe, and think about supporting me on Patreon. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Here we go. Where am I going? Let me cue up a video. Let's see where we're gonna start. Where did we leave off? I gotta find the burners. The first one. This one I don't think. Oh, why, Lord? I think this is a good place to start. So the first one that we're gonna watch is a video entitled "Critical Role Lead Matthew Mercer in the Impending Return of Orion Acaba." In my humble opinion, parentheses, why, Lord? Question mark, close parentheses, where he poses the question, I guess, why would God allow Matthew Mercer to kick poor Orion Acaba from the table? We're only going to watch a little bit of it to get the question posed, because I think that's all we need to do to spark the conversation. And then we'll move on with our lives to the next one to see that. Again, fair use, fair use, fair use, yada, 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 sis boom ba. Not intended to harass, demean, or anything else against the rules of YouTube. We're just trying to discuss things in the purview of the, da, da, da.
It's your pal, Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we're going to talk about the most important Dungeons & Dragons player character that's ever been born, and that is Orion Acaba, and the most important player.
The most important player that's ever been born, right? More important than you. More important than Scott Garibay, more important than me. The most important player that's ever been born is Orion Acaba for his amazing contributions to Critical Role. I mean, folks, he was on 27 episodes of Critical Role. Folks, FYI, in case you're curious, I've watched more Critical Role now than I ever have before, and I gotta tell you something, I don't like it. My take on the people on Critical Role is this: is that the most attractive people involved in Dungeons and Dragons are the most attractive people you've ever seen until actual attractive people ever show up. I used to be involved in the goth industrial scene, okay, and then I'll tell you the Bible truth about the goth industrial scene. And this is true if you've ever been to, like, if you ever watched like goth. The saddest thing I've ever seen in recent years has been, I saw yesterday or 2 days ago, I saw Al Jurgensen from Ministry redid their hit song "Every Day is Halloween." Oh my god, right? It's like a song that didn't need to be recorded. It's the saddest thing to see this guy re-record that song and do it again. Anyway, but back in the day, like goth industrial, it's like the hottest girls in the goth, like the hottest women in the goth industrial club were the hottest women until the dude who actually owned the building would like show up to collect the rent with like the B-listers from the Ford modeling agency that he had rented for the night. And I'll give it to the guys as much as I give it to the women, right? The guys would be like the toughest looking dudes in like black leather and like Neo Matrix and, you know, pseudo Brandon Lee affectations until like, you know, some like cholo would show up to like, you know, just like walk past security with a nod because he had to like give his sister her car keys that she forgot. And then he would like immediately like leave in 2 seconds with like 3 girls that he just like nodded at. Right. And then you immediately look at like those formerly tough looking dudes and they'd be like sitting there looking like, you know, like chafing trays, sterno guys, like, you know what I mean? It's just like, it is what it is. Right? Alt model means you couldn't make it as a regular model, so you dyed your hair and, you know, did the freaky makeup thing. And I love alt model, you know, but also, you know, like it's, you know, it's like, you know, it's the commodification of alternative culture and punk rock. You know what I mean? It is. It's like punk rock for sale, but it's also, you know, it is what it is. There's a reason why these people are voice actors. I'm not trying to make it all about lookism. I'm just trying to say it's like the coolest guys at like the cast party. You know, it's like the coolest guys in theater. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, you know what I mean? The first people to leave the cast party are the people that do hair and makeup because they're going to someplace actually cool. It's just the reality of the situation. I forget where I'm going.
Player character that has ever been, you know, indelibly marked onto a player character sheet in the history of Dungeons and Dragons since February 7th, 1974, when Gary Gygax delivered the most powerful narrative structure mankind has ever seen.
Let me stop him right there. First of all, this individual, J.Scott Garibay, God bless him. Child of God, child of goddess, child of the universe, a human being worthy of dignity and respect. For an individual who has a reputation of being this lover of Dungeons and Dragons so much, to constantly mention Gary Gygax and this important birth of Dungeons and Dragons by Gary Gygax indicates a fundamental ignorance about the thing that he claims to love so much. Why am I saying that? Gary Gygax is not the sole inventor of Dungeons and Dragons, and everybody knows it. It was Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson. Everybody knows it. Current new Dungeon Master's Guide. Is this the one that first time doesn't say it? Say shit about inspired by? Oh, no. Building on the original game created by Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson and then developed by many others over the past 50 years. Everything attached to Dungeons and Dragons has always named both those dudes. So, off the jump, not trying to make fun, but just get it together, bro.
With the exception of the Holy Bible.
Wow. What a statement. You know what I mean? Of all the self-help books, of all the books that have been written, the most important thing for human development, other than the Holy Bible, I'm not making joke, is Dungeons and Dragons. Some may say that may say something about J.Scott Garibay's evaluation of things.
All right. So let's talk about what happened to Orion Acaba in full context, right? So I'm an evangelical Christian, and so I want to ask the question: why did God allow this to happen to Orion Acaba?
Okay. Now, that is the question. And I just want to say that I think we're probably going to not go much further with this video other than that. Because here's my premise. There are the why does good things happen to bad people? Why do bad things happen to good people? As a fundamental query, revolving around the questions about the existence of God or the query about how do we explain God's actions or inactions? That's like a fundamental philosophical and theological question that has pondered men and women and humankind since time immemorable. But usually, we see that question posited in the context of wars, the death of babies, people dying young, people getting away with crimes, genocide, horrible fates befalling the completely innocent. To posit it in the context of an individual who cheated on dice rolls, was a clearly disruptive character, an individual in a game of Dungeons and Dragons that people were relying upon to be a successful streaming endeavor, and an individual who brought dangerous weapons and instrumentality into a closed, confined space where other human beings were present. And the only consequence of that was he was simply terminated from a job. That seems an odd place for an evangelical Christian who is an adult to posit the query, why did God allow this to happen? Because whereas babies being born without brains, just things happening to the unjust, bad things happening to good people, etc., that happening, Orion Acaba being terminated, seems very, very explicable and explainable. And I'll say, if an individual is willing to say, I'm an evangelical Christian and say something crazy or, out of step with that characteristic as it's kind of commonly understood, just as a troll, that's like, wow. Because if you're found out about that, that could really anger the internet community and could get, really sour results happening to you. We know that J.Scott Garibay does go out in public. He has been cited at conventions. And though I've posited questions about whether or not, he's actually married and actually has children, I mean, that's just, it was like a momentary thought that I had that I tossed out there. I mean, he probably is who he claims to be. And if he is, it's like actions have consequences. Like, if you really were to say these things and they really were really, really, really false, I mean, it's really buck nutty. You could get consequences. You know what I mean? Like, you could really anger people, but it is what it is.
This is a truly catastrophic amount of woe that has been delivered onto one man. And really, just
it really, really isn't. I mean, but I will say this is that this is like when we ponder whether or not, J.Scott Garibay, and I'm not a mental health professional, but I've dealt with a lot of mental health professionals. And in the context of dealing with mental health professionals, I've dealt with a lot of other people who are neurodivergent, right? J.Scott Garibay legitimately may have problems evaluating what is important and what is unimportant. And that can make your life difficult. I don't know if there are things that can be done for him. Whatever is currently happening as far as, searching for spiritual solutions in the church doesn't seem to be working because he's still pondering these things in this manner.
An amount of suffering, an amount of embarrassment, an amount of cruelty that's been heaped onto Orion Acaba by Matthew Mercer, by his wife Marcia Ray, by Travis Willingham, his wife Laura Bailey, by Ashley Johnson, Sam Riegel, Taliesin Jaffe, and Liam O'Brien. Why did God allow these people to trap Orion Acaba in this cage of shame? Right? Why did they allow this group to bring him in for 72 episodes?
27 episodes. J.Scott Garibay seems to have this theory that he'll claim in the comment section on some of his videos that he's explained or will explain. I don't know if he's intentionally lying to be provocative to people, like I said, trolling the audience or whatever, or if he thinks that he's achieved goals as far as explaining things that I don't believe that he's satisfied the criteria of actually explaining. But if he believes authentically that these individuals have done these things, two things that he's posited as facts. Number one, that Matthew Mercer and the other people of Critical Role have done these things to Orion Acaba. All that happened was that Orion Acaba one day wasn't on the show. Okay? There was a PR kind of press release, and that was it. We're no longer working with him. We wish him the best of luck. He's not returning to the show. That was it. And there was an explanation for the character. The character appeared a couple more times, like briefly in comments, in reference. Matthew Mercer played him briefly, and we'll get to that in another video that we're going to cover by Scott. And that was the long and the short of it. J.Scott Garibay will posit that this character, Tiberius Stormwind, is present in all these different ways. If J.Scott Garibay believes that he's satisfied his burden of proof of establishing that Tiberius Stormwind is present in all these places, I don't think he has. But like I said, whether he's trolling us or whether he legitimately believes the things that he believes, he's either presenting the character of someone who is divorced from reality and has some sort of neurodivergent mental condition who's, I feel as though he's either playing the character of someone whose mental condition is a type of neurodivergence, the symptomology of which is a manifest divorce from reality, where the things that you think are happening are not happening, and the things that you think are present in a work of fiction are not actually there. And if he's actually thinking that these things are happening, the people who know and love him should get him help, because I don't think that those things get better. It's been my experience that those things don't get better with time if untreated. And I say that not as a mental health professional, but as someone who has seen people in group.
And then say, you, the person, are exiled, but Tiberius Stormwind is never allowed to leave. You, Orion Acaba, are never allowed to sit down again, but Tiberius Stormwind is never allowed a single minute out of the story or the focus or the highlight or the spotlight. You are doomed to the darkness, but Tiberius Stormwind is trapped in the spotlight forever at the center of Exandria.
So again, like I said, I'm gonna stop sharing this for a moment because we're gonna go on to the next video. This is, yeah, like, first he's assuming he's presenting facts, not in evidence. Okay. Mario says no pun intended, because Tiberius was a dragonborn. He's positing that this individual Tiberius Storm, first of all, a couple of things that we've talked about before in the mega video that preceded this one. We do not know what the contractual rules were regarding Critical Role, or maybe some people do. I don't know if J.Scott Garibay does either. What the contractual underpinnings were regarding rights to characters or what have you on this show. If it was the case that Matthew Mercer continued to use Tiberius Stormwind and Orion Acaba didn't file any lawsuits, we can assume that there must have been some agreement reached. Whatever Orion Acaba's feelings were or weren't, I don't really know that it's J.Scott Garaby's place to assume what was going on. What we do know is you can go to the Critical Role wiki and see that after episode 27 of campaign 1 of Critical Role, it's like the classic Poochie, from when it became Itchy and Scratchy on Poochie on The Simpsons. Like, hello, Poochie. Like, they had this whole plan to explain, when they were going to kick Poochie off the show, and they tried to save Poochie. And when they didn't, it's like he went to another planet. Like, he disappeared. He came back briefly, went into like 2 battles, and then he disappeared again, went on some quest. And then they said goodbye. You could look it up. They have like a saying goodbye, and then he died. And then they find his grave like one time. He's like referred to twice. You go on the wiki. It's like you're referred to it twice, shows up once, and that's it. This notion that he's in every episode and he's titular to the thing. And first of all, I gotta tell you, spoiler alert: J.Scott Garibay contradicts himself all the time on this point. Go figure. Here, give me 2 seconds. I gotta blow my nose, of course. I should have done it before I start. Give me 2 seconds. Here, contemplate the great JC while I do this. Hold on, wait. I'll sing while I go. Da 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 da. Not dead end. I'm coming back real soon. Gotta blow my nose. I'll be back real soon. Da 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 da. You can hear me. Gotta blow the shots. Just like the guy in the thing for the bar. Oh my God, of course. Coming right back. I'll be right back, and I'm right back. Da 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 da. When you wish upon a schnapps. Anyway, be right back. There you go. Here I am. Told you. On to the next. So, God, why did God let this horrible thing happen? How could you let this happen to Orion Acaba? Meanwhile, the people dying around the world, and you're asking God, why could you let this horrible thing happen to Orion Acaba? Like 9 years ago. my final message on that point to J.Scott Garibay would be, oh, and then like I think he goes back to that video and people ask about it in the comment section. They go, well, if he doesn't come back, I guess we'd have to say then it would be God's will that he doesn't come back, right? And that's the fundamental thing that when people ask about, like, you know, Rabbi, my baby, I'm having a crisis of faith for 9 months. Me and my wife, the expectations, the dreams, picking out the clothes, the crib, and then just 3 weeks with this miracle and love, and then that night we go. She screams out, and we rush to the hospital, and then 48 hours later, Rabbi, I, I, I hate God. I hate God. You tell me. You tell me. Why should I love him? Why should I love him? Randall, I'm not angry. Scream at God. Scream at God. Scream at him, ask him. We don't know. One day we'll know. One day you'll know. One day you'll see your baby again. We made a deal. Our people made a deal. We made a promise. He made a promise to us. The answers we have are the answers we have, and we do not have all the answers. And we continue. As the shocking things happen, as the 6 million of us die, as the fights continue, as the questions are asked to me that I have no answers for, as the screams I hear, as the phones ring in the night that I have no answer for. And I have screamed. I myself have screamed. Seen. But one can imagine that if someone came to this rabbi dealing with conversations like this and said, Rabbi, how could they do this to Orion Acaba? I could imagine that rabbi might very well punch J.Scott Garibay in the face. He might very well apologize, but he might very well slap him in the face. Because that is a ridiculous question to posit. And if J.Scott Garibay is positing that question in this way as an evangelical Christian, it's a shanda. Because an adult male should not troll in this way. First of all, an adult male should not troll, but, look, it is what it is. But we move on. The next video. Don't want you to be behaving in this way. Anyway, the next video. What do we got here? Another winner. Here we go. This one is entitled Critical Role Lead Matthew Mercer and Legendary Player Orion Acaba in My Humble. Wait, I pray to God. Wait, hold on. I may have to go back to that last one because we need to get to the one where he claims that. Oh, shit. I may have to go back to that last one. I think I missed a part on that last one. Hold on. I may have to go back to the last one because I think I missed something. Hold on. Because I think that one may have the crap. Hold on, wait. Why, Lord? Wait. I apologize, folks. We have to go back to that video. I apologize. We have to go back to that video because I think it's the one where I get to check him on something. I apologize, folks. I apologize, but of course we're already 40 minutes in. I got one video down. I'm going to be doomed. Hold on. We're going back to that last one. I stink at this, folks. I don't have time to prepare these videos because then we would really be doomed.
But this other co-founder who had done all the same work and frankly better work, they demanded silence from every critter, right?
Facts on evidence.
And made critters complicit in their evil. Complicit in their evil. And I'm going to keep saying their names because they need to be called out. This is not right what they're doing. For 10 years, Orion Acaba's work has been used to build their wealth. And now, 10 years later,
he was on 27 episodes 8 or 9 years ago. One could argue that their achievements at some point can be said to not be based on his work, right? It's like, yes, we understand there was an original bass player in the Sex Pistols before Sid Vicious, and he wrote the songs and Nevermind the Bollocks. That guy has got a bone to pick, right? At the same time, we can also, there are other people that, yeah, they're part of the story, but, right? Like the original singer of Iron Maiden. Absolutely. His contributions to that first record, without a doubt, that first record is what's-his-face's record, right? But Bruce Dickinson is the lead singer of Iron Maiden. It is what it is. You know what I mean? The first lead singer of Anthrax was this guy called Neil Turbin. Why can't I remember Neil Turbin's name? Holy crap, right? Anthrax owes nothing to Neil Turbin.
We're here. We are at this very special, unique moment in time. We don't know when we're going to get episode 1 of season 4, but we do know that we've been given this brief moment in time to correct the greatest injustice happening in the Dungeons & Dragons community today.
The greatest injustice in the Dungeons & Dragons community today. The greatest injustice in the Dungeons & Dragons community today. Okay, first of all, greatest injustice in the Dungeons & Dragons community. First of all, injustices in the Dungeons & Dragons community? It's a tabletop role-playing game, right? I'm not saying that there couldn't be people who go uncredited and shit. How about this, dude? You keep on name checking Gary Gygax and leaving out the name Dave Arneson.
It is time to bring Orion Acaba back. So he has been put under incredible suffering.
What?
Incredible shame.
What?
Incredible woe at the hands of every single Critical Role player.
Every single Critical Role player?
And if you want me to explain exactly how that works, well, the biggest thing is what they did to Orion Acaba is he is more famous for being exiled from Orion Acaba is more famous for being exiled from Critical Role than he will ever be for anything he's ever accomplished in his profession.
You're predicting the future and you're dooming him. You're basically saying this dude will never be successful. That's you saying something about him. That's you saying that Orion Acaba will never get a leading role in a movie. That's you saying that Orion Acaba will never be a voice actor in a video game that will be a big deal. Okay? That's you saying something crappy about Orion Acaba. That's you saying something nasty about the dude. That's on you, bro. That's not on the people from Critical Role who, to the best of my knowledge, I could be wrong. I haven't done the research because I don't give a damn. That's on you doing that flippantly or not so flippantly, whatever, dude.
Professional life ever, right?
And ever. And also not to be all hippy dippy about it, but the power of intention and the secret, not that I believe it, but you're casting spells when you talk in a way, and you're putting out this vibe That's the theory. Not that I'm like, apply to it, but it's like, I'm going to reverse that. How about that? You know what? Actually, check this out. Watch this. Check this out. Dear Lord Jesus in heaven, I say this prayer in all sincerity. In all sincerity. I pray for Orion Acaba. I pray for J.Scott Garibay. I pray for myself and all who may watch this video. I don't know how it works. I am an imperfect person. But I pray in sincerity in your name. May there be peace for us. And may we be better people. And please, if it is the will of the Father, may Orion Acaba get a gig, a good gig. Not to punish anyone, not to prove anyone wrong, but so that he may be able to take care of himself, to be fed, to be well, to be satisfied, and to grow, and to be in a good space where he may be best situated to be free of any temptations that may beset or befall him. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
And so, like, he voice acts in video games. Well, first of all, video games they're not really a strong art. They're not. I don't think there's ever been any art in any video games, right?
There's never been any art in any video games. Well, that's you saying stuff about what many people consider a legitimate art form, and it also it is what it is, bro. I'm not gonna if you don't like video games, you don't like video games. That's your right.
Video games are they're a container for activity. They're not a container for art or actual natural, powerful, or compelling storytelling. Right? It's just like kind of like a plinko machine for people who like to watch like to watch activity. Right? They're not.
There's a thing called it's like something before rejection prior to investigation. You shouldn't do that. It doesn't sound like you really know much about video games.
And this is not me making this up. Like the biggest video games in the world, they talk to the guy who made Super Mario. He's like, this isn't about narrative. This isn't about storytelling. This is literally just like getting a crow to look at a shiny thing, right?
He did not say that. I can tell you with 100% certainty that Shigeru Miyamoto never said negative things about video games and never said that at all. I don't know if you imagine that or if you're just making things up to prove a point. I remember I had a friend growing up, a friend whose mother was just like brutally honest. And even when we were like little, when we were just like, like when little kids would be like, and I read in a book that President Lincoln liked to go out and hunt and he would do this. She'd be like, now, did you really read that? She was like, she's honest. She was like brutal. Did you really read that? Or are you just making that up to have something to say? She'd say, we're like, you'd be like 5 and she'd just be like, look at you and say that. And you'd be like, I just made that up.
And so like he has this, he's able to eat, right? But his greatest work is not allowed to be talked about. Literally not allowed to be talked about.
People talking about right now.
Right, on Critical Role's platforms. Silence imposed for 10 years, right? And then everybody, every single person who comes to Critical Role goes, oh my gosh, I just watched Bell's Hells. That was pretty cool, but I didn't understand what was happening. I need to know about Exandria.
Every single person.
Right? And then they start at episode 1 and they're like, wait a second, who's this Orion Acaba guy? And then
every single person. I took an LSAT course, and the entire value of the LSAT course was the following piece of information. They taught us just taking multiple choice questions. Whenever the possible answer given is an absolute, like everything, all, always, Never. Nothing. Never select that, because it's more likely than not that it's not that answer or response. Why? Things exist on a continuum, and the absolute is rarely going to be the answer. That absolute position is rarely going to be the answer. Like from 1 to 100. If you're thinking, I'm thinking of a number between 1 to 100. Don't think about that. The absolute position, everything, nothing, all, zero. It's rarely that. So when Scott says everybody who watches this says the following, or if someone says everybody knows that, that's not the case, because, or people say the exception that proves the rule. No, the exception disproves the rule. If one person doesn't do what he just said, then not everybody has this reaction. Everybody is lost at love. No, there are people that met their first love of their life, got married, and stayed together till they died. That's the fact. That's just how it happens for some people. Nobody wins the lottery. No, some people do. It's just a statistical anomaly, and you're probably not going to win, so you're better off not playing. So when he says that everybody watches, says to themselves that, we got to find out what the story is, and then they're perplexed by the Orion Acaba saga, that's just not the case.
They look it up, right? And they're like, oh, he's the villain. He was...
Not necessarily, because you don't think he's the villain. You think he's the hero. You think you're alone? There are other people who identify with him. I'm not going to make speculations as to what their character is or why they think that. There are some people, listen, hey, check this out. The dude who shot John Lennon, read Catcher in the Rye, thought that Holden Caulfield was a good guy. Most people read Catcher in the Rye and think to themselves, this Holden Caulfield guy, this is someone I don't want to hang out with. Hey, if there are any adolescents in the room, word to the wise. Here's a little life hack. If you know anyone that is really into Catcher in the Rye, I mean, really, really, really into Catcher in the Rye, keep a distance. Yeah.
Toxic. He cheated on dice rolls. He cheated on spell slots. He cheated on meta magic points. Oh my gosh, what a terrible.
Brought a weapon to the game. Overly identified with his character. James Franco was a really, really good, apparently, method actor, right? Totally lost himself in the role. We don't get. You get my point. We're gonna get to the point where he do this.
Terrible guy. Thank goodness they exiled him, and they painted him for 10 years to be the villain. The part they don't tell you is, we needed Critical Role to have a smooth on ramp, right? Yes. We need you to know the entirety of the story. This is why they will not let go of Tiberius Stormwind. They know that this is a compelling narrative from episode.
They did let go of Tiberius Stormwind. Exactly. They let go of Tiberius Stormwind. Everyone, oh my God. Everyone knows this. Not everyone knows this. See? It's an easy mistake to make.
Episode 1 to episode now, right? You cannot understand Vox Machina, Mighty Nine, or Bell's Hells in isolation. You have to watch every episode in sequence. And the reason why is Matthew Mercer is the second greatest dungeon master on the planet. He does not.
Here we go. Now we're going to slow down, because this is the thing that I suffered for no reason. When you see how long, where am I time-wise? 54 minutes to get to this point. This is the first video. I'm not going to be able to do this as much as I want to.
Not allow a single detail to be added to the tapestry that he is building. Right? Because it's all organic and it all connects to each other, right? That's why
fair use, yada, yada, yada.
Why Sam Riegel was like, oh my gosh, I need to honor what Matthew Mercer is doing here, and I need to write Tiberius Stormwind into every corner, every moment.
This is just something that is just did not happen. Go to the wiki, go to the Critical Role wiki, and you will see post Orion Acaba leaving, the dude, the Tiberius Stormwind, is mentioned in passing like a couple of times. He appears in 2 battles, and that's it.
Into the present and the future of Exandria. Orion's already written him into the past, but I need to make sure he's in the present and the future, right? And so basically, this is so it's so incredibly cruel what they've done, right? And
I'll also tell you this to J.Scott Garibay, you know, dude, I'm never gonna do it. I got a life to live, and you know what I mean? I have no desire to do it. You know what I mean? Trolls are trolls are trolls. You are driving along a central route to somewhere. Weaponized autism is a thing.
And the reality is, now 10 years later, we realize Orion was never the villain. And these Critical Role people are like, oh, wait, oh, Orion Acaba. Hey, we all share the same attribute. You don't have that, you're out. That's why they put him out, right? Like that is.
There's other explanations for why they may have possibly put him out, including being a disruptive character on a show that they wanted to be a success. And, as was pointed out by Super Geek Mike, bringing actual weapons, not of mass destruction, but of mass destruction to individuals within a confined space, namely a personal flamethrower with an active igniter and flame fluid in it to a space.
It's that missing attribute. It's that precious missing attribute. Oh, Aaron, hey, Aaron Hansen, you have our attribute. Come on in, buddy. Right? So it's okay that you used language that in 1866 would have been said, no, that's not appropriate. But in 1865, hey, we're back. It's
in 1866, it was appropriate to have people indentured as slaves. But hey, what do I know?
Trump's in, whatever.
Meanwhile, this guy voted for Trump. I don't know if he's trying. You know, that's the other thing that's very annoying about J.Scott Garibay is that at times he will act like he's an ally of people of color and trans people and gay people, and these other people are bad people who are, you know, false allies or anti woke, and then the flip of the hat, for some reason, possibly to get views, he'll be Mr. Conservative. I love Donald Trump. You know what I mean? Maybe he's doing it for views. Maybe he's doing it because there's not a narrative cohesive through line through his own thought processes. Possibly. I don't know. That's speculation based on his own statements as I perceive them as a observer of what I'm seeing. And I'll go to the mat saying that I am reasonable in making those statements based on the statements that he's making.
Unbelievable, right? Like,
yeah, it's unbelievable.
Unbelievable, right? So the reality is, so why did God allow this, right? And as an evangelical Christian, I'm like, this is horrible. Why would God allow this, right?
Okay, this is not the video I thought it was. So I did all that for no reason. So we got to go on to the next video. I guarantee you that's not the video I was thinking of. I suck at this. Hold on. We're going on to the next one. We're doing it live. Oh my God. I have to speed run. Is it Dead Mom? Dead Mom. Okay, here we go. Dead Mom. We're gonna start speed running, and if I miss it, we'll miss it. An hour. What time is it? Okay. We got to start speed running because no one wants to watch. If you know what I mean. Like, oh my God, this is crazy. But the amount of videos that he does a day, forget about it. Here we go.
Hi friends, this is your pal Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk about Orion Acaba, the most important player in the history of Dungeons & Dragons since February 7th, 1974, when Gary Gygax delivered Dungeons & Dragons, this transformative narrative.
Gary Gygax and David Arneson.
Get it together, brother. How Orion never left.
So the premise of this video is going to be that Orion Acaba never left. Bear in mind that up to this point, J.Scott Garibay's point was apparently, if I've understood it correctly, that a high crime and misdemeanor was committed, on to the point of needing to ask God why he allowed such a terrible, 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 terrible thing to happen. You know, like one might ask God, why did you allow the Holocaust to happen? Why are you allowing, why'd you allow slavery? Why'd you allow the baby to die? You know what I mean? Like, why, when you ask God these questions, he posited that this, what had happened to Orion Acaba was this sort of terrible thing to ask God about. But apparently, at this point, we're going to make a turn. And now the question is changed because apparently Orion Acaba never left the table. And we're going to get a little bit of a mini movie review of a movie I never seen and will never see, which apparently is involves Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore trying apparently to rehash their remember that 51st Dates where she had amnesia thing? I think it's like that thing. But
Orion
not that thing.
Orion Acaba has never left.
But similar to that thing, doing a classy take on isn't mental illness funny, right? Because 51st Dates was she had amnesia, he was in love with her, but she had amnesia, so he keeps on going on the same first date with her because there's nothing funnier than, yeah, it is what it is, but nostalgia loops, right? It worked once. Let's pair these two up again. We're gonna get the cuteness of a kid who can't successfully deal with a mother's death, apparently. Anyway,
the Critical Role table, and we're actually going to talk about how Orion Acaba is.
And we're watching this at high speed because I've got a life to live.
At a lot of tables you don't know he's at, right? Wait, Scott, isn't your entire quest?
But I'm going to slow it down because I got to have some sort of form of comprehension. I'll drive myself crazy. Try 1.5. Let's see if that works.
To return Orion Acaba to the table? Yes,
okay.
That's correct.
Fair use.
Correct. Okay. So does that make sense? Well, it's difficult to understand. And I will say this: everything we're talking about is outrageously complicated. None of this is.
It's absolutely not outrageously complicated at all. I may be overcomplicating it in the sense that I'm trying to analyze it as if it's a through line narrative, but it's probably absolutely very, very easy to understand.
Even remotely.
In the sense that it is a person talking but not making sense, either because they are either just filling up space with a tagline and a subject matter that they think will get them views because they're willing to get views at any cost to their own dignity because of some impulse to just get views or annoy people to just troll them, and or because there is something different about their thinking that is no crime. It's no sin. It's just something that exists within some people, which is, and it's beautiful. It just is. It is a way of being that some people end up being. God bless them.
Simple. And so actually to explain to you how Orion Acaba has actually never left the Critical Role table, but how he also still needs to return, you and I have to go on a journey right now. Wait, Scott, haven't you already taken me on a journey? Isn't there already 60 videos in this playlist? Yes, that's
60 videos in this playlist.
Correct, right? And what's happening here? That's valid. So what's really happening here is not really understood. So first of all, I'm writing my third book right now. You're reading it every day. So I've already written 2 books. I wrote.
He did write 2 books. One of them is about Native Americans in space. The other one is a fantasy novel. I don't know.
a science fiction novel, and I wrote a fantasy novel. No one read them. I'm not even going to tell you the name.
People did read them. It actually has the two reviews that I saw online were not bad reviews.
It's because if you click on my link tree, you can find them. You can read them. But nobody cared. Nobody cared, right? And
people did care. He got 2 decent reviews. There are no negative reviews of his book. That's another thing that makes me know that he is not trolling us, but that it is unfortunate that he does have a problem understanding the world. I'm not using clinical terms because it's not my place to use clinical terms. I really love this man, and my heart goes out to him. Not only does he not see the world and sees some negative things that are definitely not there, there obviously is some beautiful things that he's not seen as well. People did read his book. If you go to Goodreads and put his name in, J.Scott Garibay, you will see there are at least 2 reviews of his book, and they are not negative reviews. They're not, this book changed my life reviews, but they are most certainly not negative reviews, and they most certainly indicate that somebody did, in fact, read his book.
And here's the thing. Books are a dying medium, right? But this is a book here, right?
Books are not necessarily a dying medium.
And so I'm writing a book.
And this is not a book. This is not a book. These are YouTube videos. And that conflation of terms is dangerous. This is like the conflation of thinking that because there are Dungeons and Dragons Lego sets, and because there's Harry Potter Lego sets, and because there's Marvel Universe Lego sets, that all those Lego sets mean that Dungeons and Dragons and Marvel Universe and Harry Potter are now all Dungeons and Dragons canon. That is dangerous thinking. That's magical thinking. And it's not going to improve as he gets older, is my understanding. It's not mockable. It's not funny. It's something that someone needs to address. Or maybe it's nothing that anybody needs to do. Maybe it's not that big a deal. Maybe he does see, maybe people do know him and say, that's really not a big deal. This is just the way he is, and blah, blah.
Live, and you're watching it, right? Like that's what's happening. Okay. So that, and this playlist is my book. It's my book on this topic, the injustice that has been done to Orion Acaba by Critical Role. And it is a call to action to fix that so that he is returned tangibly to the table by, for episode 1 of season 4. Okay. Of Critical Role, Exandria. All right. Understand? Okay. All right. So, but I've gotten this question. They're like, whoa, Scott. Orion Acaba was not in 72 episodes of Vox Machina. He was only in 27 episodes, right? And I'm like, no, that's incorrect. That's completely wrong. You are objectively wrong, right?
Okay, we're not objectively wrong. Objectively, the people that say that he was not in 72 episodes of Vox Machina and all these things are objectively correct. This is what I'm talking about. It's like you're entitled to your own opinions, but you're not entitled to your own facts. You can explain why, God is, it's like there's talking to God and then there's talking to God, right? And people know and understand that there's a distinction and there's a difference. There's when things get to the point of hallucination. The individual wasn't there. You can go to then this is not Ceausescu where someone was taken out and photoshopped out of certain things.
And they're like, I don't understand your answer. I don't understand how you're saying that Orion Acaba never left the table. And that is what I'm saying. I'm saying Orion Acaba never left the Critical Role table. Okay. And they're like, I don't understand that. And one, I totally understand why you don't understand, because this is extremely complicated. And so I'm going to give you that answer, but it's going to take multiple videos. And I know a lot of people are like, hey, I ain't down for all that. And I've already had people say, I'm checking out. I can't do this anymore. That's fine. Hey, there are no victims here, only volunteers. You don't need to listen to another one of these videos, right? This is for the people that care about the world, that care about American males not dying of deaths of despair, okay?
See, that's the other thing that people really, why J.Scott Garibay gets under people's skin. And that's why he elicits a lot of negativity from people, I believe. It's that sort of statement. If you there are no victims here, there are only volunteers. But I gotta tell J.Scott, I don't know if he, what if he knows or if he cares. I've told you, he's commented on my videos. He's made positive comments on occasion. He's also made very biting, nasty comments to me when I've covered him before. I've been involved in movements that are properly identified as cults. So I know, I'm not saying he's doing this consciously. He might very well be doing this subconsciously, but I'm very much aware of manipulative language and, nasty manipulative language. There are no victims here. There are only volunteers. But if you're not a volunteer, then you must not be the kind of person that cares about saving American males in despair. Right? That's essentially what he said. You're either for me or you're against me. I know why you want me to take the medication. You want me to take the medication because you want me to be a mind-controlled slave. No, I get it. I get it. I know exactly why you want me to take the medication. You want me to take the medication because you want me to be a mind-controlled slave in an office, in a cubicle, just like Dad. You want to kill me just like you killed Dad. All this stuff. You know what I mean? It's manipulative, angry language. And it is what it is. And certain people are going to get activated and upset by it and lash back out at them. I'm not. I'm going to identify it and say, no, you are behaving like DSP. You are behaving like King Cobra JFS. You are behaving like those individuals that are pejoratively known on YouTube and the internet as a lolcow, like an individual that people watch for shits and giggles because you're not making sense. You're not behaving like an adult. You're behaving like someone who thinks that they're right and everyone else is wrong. When you're the only person who thinks a certain thing and no one is agreeing with you, it may be that you're the super genius of the millennium that came up with the thought that no one else came up with, or it may be that it's time to pause, reflect, and think about why you're the only one standing out there saying what you're saying.
All right, let's get into this. So you're looking at a series within my book on Orion Acaba and the injustice that was done to him by Critical Role. Okay. Now, the series is called Never Left. Okay, and we're going to get there, and I'll identify each video in the title and in here as part of the Never Left series within the overarching Orion Acaba series. Okay, thank you. All right, so let's explain what's happening. Okay, so first of all, we need to talk about the movie Blended. Okay, so Blended is a fantastic movie. It is really an incredible film by Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore.
Let me stop you right there. It's an incredible film by Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. Now, I understand that there's this movie by Adam Sandler, like where he's like a cocaine addict, like jeweler, that he got like he may have gotten an Academy Award, like that Adam Sandler has done some good work. But I also know that he did like Grown Ups, or like he's also put out like a lot of like a Western too. Like he also produces like a lot of like dog doo-doo, right? Like Robert De Niro. Never forget that Robert De Niro, yes, he was in Casino, right? Yes, right? He was in whatchamacallit, Taxi Driver. Like, you know what I mean? He was also in Rocky and Bullwinkle. You know what I mean? A lot of these guys get paychecks, right?
It's about two families. One is a family who it's two girls. And yeah, so Adam Sandler.
We're almost done with this video. I just gotta get to this point.
First family has two girls. I'd have three.
He's got three girls. Congratulations.
Yeah, it actually has three, right? So he has three girls, and their mother died, right? So Adam Sandler is a widower, okay? And then Drew Barrymore, she just has a jerk husband who, was not a good husband, and she divorced him, right? But these two families are moving together to be one blended family, and they go on this vacation together to Africa, and that's the film, right?
That sounds like the stupidest premise of a movie ever, right? That sounds like, the Brady Bunch goes bananas.
And in the film, there's a part where that will help you understand where we're going. Okay.
Say hello to Genocide. Hey, yeah, say hello to Tim Fry.
Worked at.
Oh, we got a whole bunch of people.
Hooters, so she's clearly very attractive, right? You know one other attribute about her.
Wait. We missed that line. I'm gonna do this line, and then we'll get to the live chat. So I'll get to people in the live chat because I have a joke here. I've been practicing.
At Hooters, so she's clearly very attractive. Right?
Oh, wait. You gotta get the line. Hold on.
We'll help you understand where we're going. Okay. So what is that part? So Adam Sandler's wife, she was a waitress at Hooters, so she's clearly very attractive, right?
Meanwhile, you ever been at Hooters at Opening Bell in Sloatsburg? That was the joke. Oh my God, I can't believe that further than that.
You know one other attribute about her as well. Okay. All right. So, but she was the mother of those three girls, and she was married to Adam Sandler, and then she died. Okay. Now, the middle daughter of Adam Sandler's children, which is three girls, all of who he dresses like boys, which is extremely funny in the film. Because these poor girls are mistaken for boys constantly because of the way their father gets their hair cut with a barber, the way he dresses them with clothes he gets from where he works, Dick's Sporting Goods, and him just being not smart, right? Or about parenting. He can't be a mother. That's the best way to say it. He's actually a very good parent. But his middle daughter, she does this thing, right? And everybody in their family understands it, and they know it, and they're okay with it, and they provision it. Okay. Now, what does the middle daughter do? Whenever they sit down at a table, if there's 5 chairs at the table, only 4 people can sit down. One chair has to remain empty for the middle daughter's dead mother. And the reason why is the middle daughter talks to the dead mother all the time in front of people, right? And so everybody in their family is like, oh, Maisie, let's say her name was Maisie. I don't even remember what her name was in the movie. Maisie is talking to mom, dead mom. Maisie is talking to dead mom. We all get this. We all understand this, and we provision this. We don't try to shut this down. We understand that Maisie is talking to her dead mom, and how dare we interrupt? And if Maisie wants to keep an empty seat at the table so that her dead mom can sit down in that chair, that's what's got to happen, right? But every other person in the world is like, hey, you're crazy. And
I'm sure they don't say to the little girl whose mother is dead and who they still speak to. I'm sure in whatever year this movie was made, I don't know, or when it's supposed to take place. I don't know. I've never seen the movie, but I don't know exactly if they act like the child is crazy. I'm sure they identify the child as having not successfully digested or dealt with the mourning process or the death of their mother, which is clearly what is happening. Again, this is my premise that this movie sounds like if it's a comedy, I don't know, but also I don't know if J.Scott Garibay understood the movie. I'm not going to trust him on it.
And Adam Sandler's family, the two daughters of Maisie, they are daggers out on this. Like the second you say she's crazy, the entire family will attack you, right? Like physically and like physically attack you. Like,
okay, then that's not appropriate reaction for them to have either, because look, the entire family sounds like they need therapy to deal with the death of their mother.
They are furious. Like they don't take any bunk on this. Like they are furious. Like they're like, hey, how dare you say that she's wrong, right? Because they all know she's right. They know she's right. They provision it. They know she's talking to the dead mom, right?
She's not right, though, is my point. I've never seen this movie, and I don't know if J.Scott Garibay, if we could trust that J.Scott Garibay understands what the movie meant to communicate or where the movie went with this child. But we can all know and understand, hopefully, in the real world, that a child whose mother has passed, but who still insists on leaving a chair open and still speaks to that mother, needs to go and speak to a therapist to deal with the mourning and grieving process, because we all know, or should know and understand, that is an unhealthy reaction to deal with the passing of one's mother. And that while the hearts of the sisters may be in the best place in defending this child, let's call her Maisie, that they too should know and understand that the best thing that they can do for their sibling is help them digest and move on in the grieving process, move on from denial, which is one of the 7 stages of grief, through the other stages of grief towards the hopefully resolution phase of acceptance. That was it. I'm going to move on to the next one. But before I move on to the next one, I will look at the live chat. We've got Xnard Prime. This is the most bizarre D&D dark obsession I've ever witnessed in my entire life. As finding my own self delved in collecting RPG literature since 1982, I would know. Moving on. Here's what RPG fantasy hobby is for me as a diagnosed CPTSD afflicted soul that gives me some insight into J.Scott Garibay's mind. Hey, join the club. Vicarious abstract imaginary scenarios illustrate villains and heroes. There's a metaphors for reality that follow pattern of entire parallel imaginary universe in the mind get created in one's head. Such a headspace makes for good fiction creation, or it can metastasize into dissociative identity disorder delusions, aka blueberry hallucination. You got me. You got me. God bless you. And we got bots. We got Cheg's Chambers here. Hey, from Wales, Benjamin. We say hello across the pond to you while we still can. But before someone elects to construct a wall and or change the name of our ocean to the anti-Whales Sea between us. Little joke there. Xnard Prime, getting lively. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. Let's see what we got up next. Let's see what we got. I think we're going to get to the one that I really wanted to get to, which is, oh my God. Let's see if this one is the one. Probably won't be. And I've been here an hour and 22 minutes. Let's see what happens. Share screen. Fair use. Transformative work. Not here to demean, to denigrate or anything like that. Just a fascinated person watching a fascinating person talk about something that will never happen. Why is he talking about it? Is he sincere? Why does he say things that are demonstrably, objectively not the facts on the ground? You like what I do here? Like, comment, and subscribe.
Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons. We're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, the most important player in the history of Dungeons & Dragons since February 7th, 1974, when Gary Gygax
and Dave Arneson
dropped the most powerful narrative identity tool that humans have ever had on the secular side. We're going to talk.
Arguable.
We're going to continue in the series Never Left. And we're going to talk about how Orion Acaba is robustly in episodes 1 through episode 72 of Vox Machina. Now, I'm actually going to take this Never Left series even further and explain to you how he's.
Now, he's going to argue that Orion Acaba is through episodes 1 through 72 of Vox Machina. The reality of the situation would seem to be that Orion Acaba was actually in episodes 1 through 27 only. And I don't even believe it was called Vox Machina at that point. I think it was just the first campaign of Critical Role. I don't really know. I don't care about Critical Role.
He's in all of Vox Machina, every episode of Vox Machina, every episode of Mighty Nine, every episode of Bell's Hells, and how
now he's truly stretching it out when he gets to that point. When he's arguing that he's in all those things, that's like saying that CW Chanter exists in every single YouTube video tangentially related to ufology, conspiracy theory, and everything. And that Xnard Prime is me. Because Xnard Prime is in my live chat. It's my live chat. Therefore, it's like reductio ad absurdum.
Orion Acaba is now at the table when any session of any official Dungeons and Dragons campaign starts, and how
Orion Acaba, like Elijah, right, at the Passover Seder, is present at every single Dungeons and Dragons game that ever occurs. Leaving aside the fact that the vast majority of people who play Dungeons and Dragons don't watch Critical Role, that there are many players of Dungeons and Dragons, like myself, that actively dislike Critical Role, that there are many players of Dungeons and Dragons who have never heard of Critical Role. Whether you choose to believe that or not, there are people that have no idea that Critical Role exists. Yet Orion Acaba is there. I'll put this out there, and I think I'm being overly generous when I say J.Scott Garibay will not be able to prove his point because it is a bizarre thing to say. And if he's saying it in sincerity, he's established that he is having a problem comprehending reality. And if he's saying it as a troll, he's risking someone eventually not liking him. Dude, people get divorces, man. And if your old lady ever wanted to be like, I'm getting divorced from you and I want full custody of the kids, if she produces videos like this of you saying this stuff, you're toast. And if anyone ever wants to fire you from a job and say we're firing you from a job because you know what I mean, we think that your mental health is in question and produces your videos, you're toast. And I'm not saying that for any other reason, just other than to say, dude, you're saying things that are Looney Tunes. It's like saying 2 + 2 is 95.
an empty seat should be left for him, for his intangible self who sits at that table now.
What? Let's not leave an empty seat for Gary Gygax or Dave Arneson, but let's leave a seat for Orion Acaba, a dude who was terminated from one streaming show he brought weapons to the set and he was clearly, cheating, and he was showing up like, yeah, dude, it is what it is, bro.
Okay, but we're going to get there. So today, let's just stay focused. We're going to talk about episodes 1 through episode 72. And you're like, wait. Aren't you going to explain that, like, there's a difference between episode 27 and episode 28? There's no difference. Orion Acaba is playing Tiberius Stormwind in episode 71 exactly the same way he was playing Tiberius Stormwind in
now pay attention to that. He said, isn't there a difference between episode 27 and 28? And then he goes to episode 71. Nah.
Episode 2. Okay. And we're gonna get into that. Okay, all right. So let's get into that.
Let's get into it.
Wait a second, Scott. Tiberius Stormwind, actually, Orion Acaba was kicked out after episode 27, and they did not allow him to physically return to the table for episode 28. That's a functional difference, right? And you're not acknowledging that by saying Orion 72 episodes. That's correct. I'm not acknowledging that. And the reason why is I am saying that Orion Acaba's play of Tiberius Stormwind, which is still happening today, Orion Acaba is playing Tiberius Stormwind.
Tiberius Stormwind is not present. You can look at the Critical Role wiki and see that after episode 27, the character is only mentioned a couple of times and only appears, played by Matthew Mercer, like twice. That's the objective reality of the situation. To go beyond that is to go into a divergent timeline that does not exist, unless someone can show me that the Critical Wiki has been altered a la like a communist dictatorship like Ceausescu dictatorship, where they're like, photoshopping out people and changing history.
At every single Dungeons & Dragons table, every single time that any session starts, Orion Acaba is there intangibly, right? It's very hard to.
It's not hard to understand if we accept as a premise that some people lose their mind and lose touch with reality, or lie on the internet for clicks.
Understand. You will understand before we're done the series, but we're going to walk there together. Okay, please be patient. All right. So there's 3 stages of Orion Acaba's play of Tiberius Stormwind. The first is Vox Machina, episodes 1 through 72. He played Tiberius robustly. Okay. Then
remember, he was only on 27 episodes, so how he would play robustly when he wasn't there is something that we're going to need to understand.
Vox Machina. Then the remainder of Vox Machina, and then every episode of Mighty Nine and every episode of Bell's Hells, he played Tiberius actively. Okay. And
dude, that's my understanding. You look at the wiki, he's not there.
And then and now today, at every D&D canon table, he plays Tiberius Stormwind vigorously. There's 3.
He plays Tiberius Stormwind vigorously at every D&D table. I play D&D oftentimes solo. Is he present at my table? Because I play an almost zero magic play style with very little, if almost no, fantasy characters, including Dragonborns. So where exactly is he? Is there a ghost in my house? A living ghost known as voice actor Orion Acaba? I don't think so. And what exactly is a D&D table? Is he at OD&D campaigns? Tankar, Eric Stein over at Tankar's Tavern just talked about a game that resolved, a 2E second edition advanced D&D campaign that was being run by Joe the Lawyer. Was Orion Acaba? Those dudes do not like Critical Role by any stretch of the imagination. Was Orion Acaba present at their table? I doubt it, because if the ghost of Orion Acaba, the living ghost of Orion Acaba, was present at their table, right? Former cop, not all cops are bastards, but that guy certainly is, right? Would have needed the services of Joe the Lawyer to bail him out of jail. Dude, he wasn't there. Why am I going into this?
3 stages, right? Robustly, active. Actually, I'm sorry. Yeah. Got that. Order wrong. Robustly, vigorously, actively. Okay. And robustly, 1 through 72. Vigorously, right? That is the remainder of Vox Machina.
If we lose that connection, I'll just hit you over the astral plane. We got to watch out. If there's any interference, it's just Orion Acaba trying to hit me. I'll take a single D&D session that happens.
Orion Acaba is right there playing Tiberius Stormwind. I'll explain all this. Okay, so let's get into. So why is there no? Wait. There should be a difference. There should be another category. Like there should be a different category of him playing from 1 to 27 than 28 through 72. No, you're wrong. Okay, so let's get into how and why you are wrong. All right.
How and why we are wrong? We're wrong? That's the thing, dude. We are not wrong. I'm not saying that you're wrong, right? When encountering an individual, right, who is in the midst of some sort of episode, the appropriate reaction is not to directly challenge their conception of reality. It's to approach them with love, to make sure they're not a harm to themselves or others, right? And be like, yeah, I'll go get the nurse.
Okay, so how is Orion's episodes, air quotes, right? Because really literally every D&D session played today is Orion's episodes, right?
Nope. I mean, and that's also like, it's like way to invade the sovereignty of like every other, like it's provocative, right? It's like, it's annoying. You know what I mean?
Which is incredible. We will get there. Sorry. But Orion's robust episodes, okay, 1 through 72,
And meanwhile, if Orion Acaba is able to be present everywhere, like some sort of like transcendental guru, like how, in what way or shape or form has he been like offended in any way, shape, or form by what happened to them via whatchamacallit, being terminated from Critical Role? Technically, much like the ascent of JC, right? You know, it was only upon, you know, the crucifixion and, you know, the 3 days in the tomb and the resurrection that the miracle happened, right? It was part of the journey. Is it that Orion Acaba? Isn't it that Orion Acaba apparently needed to be sacrificed so that he may rise again and be present evermore, not just in Exandria, but also at every D&D table everywhere? Also, man, can you imagine needing to be at every D&D table everywhere for free? You know what I mean? Sucks.
Why is there no distinction? And here's why, okay? Basically, you have to understand Tiberius Stormwind is an original character, okay? Which Orion Acaba made, no one else, okay? And so
you don't know that. I mean, who knows? I mean, whatever, dude.
And he is a player character. Okay. Now, what happened in 28? Well, Matthew Mercer said,
this is it. This is it. And when I do this all the time, where I build up in my head some big thing, and then when I actually execute on YouTube, I'm like, and it's going to happen. I guarantee you it's about to happen again. Here we go.
This is what Tiberius is doing, okay? Well, wait a second. If Matthew Mercer played Tiberius, then the person who played Tiberius from episodes 28 through 72 is Matthew Mercer. That is incorrect. It's not even possible, okay? So first of all, Matthew Mercer...
Here we go. It's not even possible. Watch.
...is a dungeon master. His purview is non-player characters. He has no right to play a player character. It is...
He's a dungeon master. His purview is not non-player characters. He has no right to...
Specifically explained in the Dungeon Master Guide that a dungeon master has absolutely no ability or right to ever play the player character.
Bam! Now, granted, this is the latest edition of the Dungeon Master's Guide. Okay? This is granted. This is the latest edition of the Dungeon Master's Guide. Okay? But bear in mind what J.Scott Garibay just said. He just said that a Dungeon Master cannot play a player character. Granted, this is the latest edition of the Dungeon Master's Guide, the 2024 edition. And granted, Matt Mercer indeed was a consultant on it. But if we go to, I put places in here. If we go to page 23, you will read group size. D&D rules and published adventures generally assume 4 to 6 players plus the DM. The following advice helps you adjust adventures to work for smaller or larger groups. Then, second paragraph down. DM controlled adventurer. You can make an adventurer character of your own, sometimes called a DMPC, a Dungeon Master player character to accompany the party. This is a rewarding way for you to role play with your friends while they're exploring your world. But keep in mind that you'll have to run this NPC in combat. Be sure to keep the player's characters in the spotlight and don't take away the player's agency by having your character make decisions for the group. Third paragraph, NPC party members. You can add non-player characters to the adventuring party. Use the NPC stat blocks in the monster manual to represent these supporting characters. If you don't want to run these NPCs yourself, if you don't want to, that means that you could want to, invite one or more of your players to take on an NPC as a secondary character. These NPCs might be apprentices or employees of the adventurers, so it's natural for the main character to take the lead in exploration and social interactions while the NPCs fade into the background. Moving on. What do we have? Under the next page, 24, absent players. When one of your players is absent, say they get kicked off the show, what do you do with that player's character? I don't know, say Tiberius Stormwind. Consider the following options. Have the character simply fade into the background. This requires everyone to step out of the game world a bit, suspend his belief. Here we go. Decide. Here we go. Where we go with this one? Substitute. Okay. Substitute player. With the absent player's consent, have another player run the missing player's character, or run the character yourself if you feel you can do so. Bickety fucking bam. I did go on to check the Dungeon Master's Guide 2014 edition. The language is a little nebulous, but if you get to the NPC section, it does indeed include language about NPC adventures in the adventuring party that can be run by the DM. Got X9 Prime. Here we go. Another feature of DID, dissociative identity disorder / CPTSD. This is Xnard Prime's comment that I am reading. Their language, not mine, is tunnel vision, bubble pursuing elation or catharsis. It's as though he wants affirmation from some kind of audience. I'll also say this. I saw a documentary about the director John Waters. And in it, they had a very brief segment with a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist was talking and said the following about people who, if you're presented with a patient or a subject who, say, for example, enjoys playing with feces, you need to know and understand that the individual may actually, the subject may actually truly enjoy the sensations, the smells, and the activity of playing with their own or someone else's feces. Or the subject may just really truly enjoy the reaction elicited from other people observing them playing with feces. XR Prime goes on. There's attention-seeking madness. There's perpetual seeking of affirmation, catharsis, proving as a creative act of imagination. Again, this is Xnard Prime's theses. He's fishing, being provocative with bizarre fantasy insight he can perceive. In my humble opinion, this is Xnard Prime's language. JSG utilizes a bizarre self-aware penchant to perceive his denial bubble to some degree. Going on, there's elation of saying something bizarre and weird to continuously be a bold-faced, bullshitting lolcow or troll cow. I don't know to what degree of either. Many people have posited this as well. I have a hard time believing this. Again, this is Xnard Prime, believing JSG is so far gone to where he's either so far gone in his bubble perception delusion to where nearly none of his detractors or critics faze him. But JSG's dedication to producing videos is impressive. It's a broken record, funny, goofing, effing BS. I will say this. What made me think that, I'm not sold on the he's just trolling thing, but I will say this. There have been times where I've seen him and heard him call into, there was a podcast or like a pseudo podcast that tried to go for a while. It didn't seem to get off the ground, and the people appeared to have lost interest and stopped it. It was called RPGs are dumb, DUM. And on at least like I think 2 or 3 occasions he called in, like he was like called in as a guest. And when he called in as a guest, he had a completely different affectation or and tone. He didn't appear on camera; he just appeared by voice. But he responded and spoke just absolutely like I'm speaking to you now, right? Like it was like you know, when he's not doing the weasel, Pauly Shore just talks like he talks normatively. So it's entirely possible that some of this is we won't know until we know, right? But it is what it is. Moving on. Anyway, you're wrong about. I gotta go back to share screen about this so far. Now, granted, this would be when this thing with Orion Acaba and Matthew Mercer happened back in the day. We would be having the old edition, which didn't have that explicit language. But I do know that, look, hey.
It is the one thing they have no control of in the world.
That is absolutely, I mean, I wouldn't characterize that as true. And first of all, you can home rule and homebrew anything, right? What are the rules? Read the rules. The DM can do things.
Proscribed. He cannot do it.
And it was a show. Everybody, I've got to watch my language. Many people, if not most people, know and concede that while Critical Role is a stream about Dungeons and Dragons where they play Dungeons and Dragons, because it is a show, there are conceits made to the narrative structure of showmanship, and things are changed and things are altered for that end. They don't exactly play a 100% straight game of D&D. And they lost a cast member because, he brought a flamethrower to the set, amongst other things.
He literally cannot, right? Well, but he did.
He literally can. You can do whatever you want to with the player's consent and the DM's consent, right? You do whatever you want to.
Right. Well, let's talk about that. And here's the next question. Who is Matthew Mercer? Okay. Now,
who is Matthew Mercer?
Say that Orion Acaba is not at the table, I'm willing to listen to you, but you need to tell me the next part. Matthew Mercer is a scrub crap piker who is posing as a dungeon master, but not.
Right. You can see J.Scott Garibay says you can say that Orion Acaba is not at every single Dungeons and Dragons table. He'll allow you to say that, but on one condition. If you can say that as long as you say that Matthew Mercer is a bad DM. To which I say, this is part of the reason that I'm making these videos. J.Scott Garibay, you do not make the rules. When I'm in his comment section, he said, like, someone asked him a question, he didn't answer it. I said, why don't you answer their question? He says, I'm looking for engagement, not disagreement. I said, that's not the definition of engagement. You say that the most important thing is when you engage in this stuff and leave your comments in the comment section below. I said, people are giving you engagement. Why don't you respond directly and get some questions? He's had this roundabout way of saying that engagement is basically people agreeing with him. I said, that's not the definition of engagement. That is not the engagement is not just agreeing with you. This is like King Cobra JFS. If you don't agree with him, you're a troll. If you say the young man is drinking too much, you're a troll. I'm going to block you. Oh, that's it. You're getting blocked. You want to block me? Then they sign up with another account. And then he's feeling himself because he's got over 120,000 subscribers. And everyone says, yeah, you have 120,000 subscribers because everyone says someone disagrees with you, you block them. And then people try and tell J.Scott Garibay, you think that these views are people agreeing with you? You think that people are watching you because they think you're engaging with your personal quest, or that they think that there's validity to you wanted to believe or bring Orion Acaba back to the table. Okay. And like a child, if you fail to make the distinction between negative attention and positive attention, things will turn out badly. It's going to be a sad state of affairs. And you could tell in the comment section that and you could tell when I covered him last time, the evangelical Christian J.Scott Garibay picked up on the fact that I mentioned that, dealing with my my alcoholism and addiction. I said, well, folks, I made a video about like buying too many TTRPG books and stuff, and I said, I maybe developed a little bit of a shopping addiction. I got to cut it out. He made a very biting comment where he said, oh, I hope you're okay with your shopping addiction. It sounds like a terrible thing to deal with. It was very like, William Carlos Williams, the Plums kind of comment. It's a nasty thing to do. What? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It is what it is. So I don't think he enjoys, negative, comment. I don't think he processes it, well. But who knows? Who knows? Only he knows.
Not actually a podium level dungeon master. I actually believe that Matthew Mercer is the second best dungeon master in the world, right? And if what you're saying is right, and that he just was like, oh, I'm just going to play Tiberius Stormwind, it means he had never read the Dungeon Master Guide.
There's nothing about reading the Dungeon Master Guide that would prevent him from playing Tiberius Stormwind briefly the way he briefly did.
I read Explorer's Guide to Wildmount and Call it the Netherdeep. It's extremely clear he's read the Dungeon Master Guide, every single edition.
So you just said that he did read the Dungeon Master's Guide. So someone did read the Dungeon Master's Guide, the 2014 edition. We know that Matthew Mercer grew up. Why do I know this about Matthew Mercer? Playing first edition Pathfinder, which is basically Dungeons & Dragons 3.5. And we know that he felt that it was appropriate for him in the moment to play out the character of Tiberius Stormwind briefly, narratively as an NPC for a period of time, and as an NPC in combat for one or two combat encounters. And you just identified him as the second best dungeon master in the world. Therefore, that was appropriate behavior. And we know, as a consultant on the 2024 edition of the Dungeon Master's Guide, he must have had some influence, because now we see that behavior of playing as a DM, but simultaneously playing as an adventurer, a DMPC, is now officially, as you like to say, a canon rule. So what's your point? You have no point. What the fuck am I doing? I'm watching J.Scott Garibay.
Since 1 through 5i, right? He's read at least 6 Dungeon Master Guides, and I would bet that he's read most of them 3 times each. So this is a man who's gone through 18 times, right?
And he engaged in the behavior that you think is problematic. So make your argument. You have not articulated your argument. I've articulated my argument, which is you don't articulate your argument. You talk in circles and don't make any sense, because you are ALOLCOW on YouTube. I don't use that as a pejorative term. I'm not using that as an insult. I'm using that as a term that is understood in internet culture to represent someone who behaves live without a net on the internet. And there's an Adam Sandler comedy album entitled "They're All Going to Laugh at You." And my point to you and all other individuals that fall under that rubric is to say, hey, folks, call it a day. Don't do this. Because if you do, people are going to say, hey, the only thing apparently to do with people like you is to watch you with other people and say, they're at it again. We're not making fun of them. We're not trying to be mean to them. We're just saying, as long as we're watching it alone, we might as well watch it together so we don't lose our minds in isolation.
Right? So here's the kicker. So here's what happened. He was in crisis. Matthew Mercer was in crisis. He took actions for Tiberius Stormwind. When he did that, how did he do it? Well, first of all, he was aware that he shouldn't be doing it at all, in my humble opinion. Okay, he was aware of that, right? But he also realized he had just signed a contract with Felicia Day, and he had to deliver content, right? So the reality is they should have done something different, but they were in the middle of it, right? They were under contract to Felicia Day, and she cracks the whip, man. I'm telling you, right? Like that, she's a business lady. I know this because I read her autobiography, right? She throws down. You ain't gonna just like, oh, sorry, you get nothing because we all didn't like Orion, right? So he did what was wrong, and he took control. Actually, he didn't even take control. He decided to declare actions for Tiberius Stormwind. Was that Matthew Mercer running Tiberius Stormwind? No, that was Orion Acaba running Tiberius Stormwind.
That was Orion Acaba running Tiberius Stormwind, apparently, through Matthew Mercer, the individual who we've been told previously by J.Scott Garibay was this evil, maniacal, demonic character torturing Orion Acaba, but now Orion Acaba is magically influencing Matthew Mercer and controlling his actions. That, of course, makes no sense at all.
Right? Through Matthew Mercer, right? Because Matthew Mercer is one of the greatest dungeon masters in the world. And so when he took this terrible action, which he shouldn't have taken, one thing
he was totally able to take that action. There's no great sin. I speculate, if anyone disagrees with me, you can put the most important thing is when you put your comments in the comment section below. Blah, 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 blah.
Did do, and I think you could see this in his play, is he played Orion Acaba with exactly the same energy.
Oh my God. You can go see the play of Matthew Mercer doing Tiberius Stormwind. It is literally like he takes his he takes his glaive and he throws it, and it's like innocuous.
And exactly the same robust, active interaction with the Exandria world that Orion Acaba used. He used Orion Acaba's template of play to declare actions for Tiberius Stormwind. And he did that from episode 28 through episode 72.
Look at the Critical Role wiki. The character is mentioned 2 or 3 times and appears on stage like twice. It's like, look at it. It's this guy is saying things that are just not true. And he's going to keep on telling you, I'm going to prove to you that this thing is true. And then keeps on saying things like, it's true because it's true.
And every action that Matthew Mercer declared for Tiberius Stormwind was simply done in the method that Matthew Mercer knew from playing with him that Orion would use. So Orion gets credit for and maintains ownership of every single thing.
That's not how it works. If that's how it worked, it would be how it works. You have no idea what the contracts say. Oh, but by the way, I'm not going to lose my mind. What you just said didn't happen. And if it did, it would be an alternative world where that happened. But it didn't. So whatever, dude.
That Tiberius Stormwind did from episodes 1 through episode 72. And so
he didn't do anything.
When you talk about where was Orion at the table, he was at the table 1 through 72. He was physically there 1 through 27, but he was there through Matthew Mercer only taking actions that Orion would take to declare actions for Tiberius Stormwind. And Orion owns every single thing Matthew Mercer did because Matthew Mercer only did those actions in the method that Orion would have done them.
Okay.
Right? Now you're like, no. Orion Acaba was not at the table. All right, I'm willing to grant that for you. If you are willing to say Matthew Mercer is a piker, non-dungeon master, ignorant fool who just, doesn't really create an organic world, just slap some crap together, just the way the guy that, at the convention that I did last week did.
Is a no good DM, just like the DM at the convention I just was at last week. Dude, you can reverse engineer this shit, right? It's nothing to do with Orion Acaba and Matthew Mercer. Something happened last week at a convention. Find out what convention happened in the greater Pennsylvania area last week. There's someone that has a J.Scott Garaby's story from last week. Okay? But remember, J.Scott Garaby is the guy who this is a J.Scott Garaby story. He went to a D&D 5e game that was based on Perkman, right? They were playing Perkman D&D 5e, right? Pokemon, right? And the whole premise of the game was there was going to be no permadeath and no actual like dying. And this is the story as it's related by J.Scott Garibay. We can dump out of this one. J.Scott Garibay is like a Charizard. I don't know what character he was, right? This is supposed to be like a fun, we're playing Pokemon, right? As in 5e rules. And Jay wanted to be part of this game. No one knew him or whatever. So he goes to this game and like everyone's gathered around, whatever. And then all of a sudden it comes to his turn. And like J.Scott Garibay apparently gives this like dramatic speech before he makes this turn. And he's just like, in the name of, we're Pokemon. And this shit matters. So I declare that I do this, the other thing, and something. However he does it, the DM tells him like, wait, if you do that, and you fail the roll, it may result in you actually dying. And we specifically set up this thing that the special like rule that people wouldn't die. It was like this like special like threshold rule so that the Pokemon, wouldn't die. Maybe apparently because there were like younger players at the table or something. I'm not exactly sure. And J.Scott Garibay like made this speech where he says like, I declare that this threshold is removed from me because this shit is important. And therefore, I remove this rule from me as a sign of my dedication for, like in the name of Pokeballs or whatever, like honestly. And he fucking fumbled the roll. Like he like rolled a 1 or whatever. And the DM was like, you're dead. And J.Scott Garibay says, so like for the rest of the game, like people are making their turns, people are going, and I'm just like sitting there, like awkwardly. It's like, no one's like really talking to me. So I just eventually I just left. Like just like some people like just like fuck shit up. You know what I mean? There we go. Just looking at the live chat. No, I get you. I hear you, right? It's perplexed respect. I get it. Oh my God, DM James. I started pronouncing DM James is another guy. If I talk about lolcows, DM James is another. As far as I'm concerned, DM James is a lolcow. Okay, if I'm thinking about the same guy, he's got problems of his own. Yeah, there you go. There's a lot of aspects of J.Scott Garibay that probably is designed to be just provocative. Genocide. I would not want to play Dungeons and Dragons with J.Scott Garibay. Ironically, I would. I would, and I would endure all of it. There you go. There you go. X-Star Prime is dumping out. I can't watch this anymore today, but it was fun watching and trying to psychoanalyze JSJ because I don't hate JSJ. There you go. It's not. There you go. I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. Here you go. There's an art to being a troll lolcow, and it must be a careful balance of not being a lolcow accidentally. Radio ventriloquist, Phil, comedian genius perfected. It's you know what I mean? It is hard. I really do want to hear your reaction to my comments, so I know my observations aren't alone. Benjamin is your first name. It is. So there you go. Yeah. You got to be careful with it. And I always tell people in the trolling of the lolcow community is this, and this is a word of wisdom, a word of warning to myself. It's Carl Jung. You stare into the void will eventually stare back. And be careful of that which you engage with, that you don't become it yourself. I'll see if there is, I can't remember if either of these other ones I thought were gold. I can't remember. I'll take a quick look. Hold on. Let me see, because we've been here for 2 hours. I really got to go. Folks. We'll probably leave these last ones to another day. Folks, I love you. If nobody told you they loved you today, someone just did. That someone is CW Benjamin, CW Chanter. Call me what you will. Jonaside, I played D&D with a guy. DMing was buy the book when a PC wanted every advantage he could get. Yeah, you know what I mean? Also, Also, Professor DM did a video analyzing the Orion Acaba situation and basically just said Orion Acaba was that guy that every D&D game eventually encounters, that guy, the player that, dude, you want to have a game, you want to allow people to play, whether you're on a softball team, whether you're playing a D&D game, people, dude, I'm a musician. We've had everyone has experiences if you're in bands or in the workplace with people that you may even dig, but you just can't, they got to go, right? Whether it's their issues, whether it's mental health issues, whether it's substance abuse issues, whether it's personality issues, right? It's just not working out, right? You got to go, right? Hey, man, guess what? It's not us, it's you. Page of Rods. The Messenger. Do you get the message? Orion Acaba is not coming back to the table. I support Orion Acaba being a rebel rouser. That guy. I hate Critical Role. Okay, I won't watch any of it. It's not my game. So, hey, right? Hey, don't hate the player, hate the game. I guarantee you there are other Orion Acaba fans out there. Guess what? Yeah, it's corporate, right? Why'd they kick that dude out of band? Because it's corporate now and he's real. Yeah. No, we get it. Guess what? He's still not coming back to the band. Oh, hey. X-Nard Prime. I'd rather play a game with Orion Acaba and JSG, both over Professor Dr. Dungeon Master. You know who agrees with you? This dude, I would love to play with J.Scott Garibay. I am a huge fan of crazy. I'm not looking for an easy ride. I get it 100%. Right? I'm not debating the sentiment. I'm debating, arguing that it's the reality of what's happening, right? I'm debating saying that the dungeon master is not allowed to play a player character. I'm debating saying that Orion Acaba is present at every single D&D table. Like, that's a reasonable thing to say. You know what I mean? I'm glad that he's saying it. I'd much rather live in a world where J.Scott Garibay exists saying this stuff on the internet than, believe you me, do you think I'm going to make a reaction video to Professor DM being like, hi, I'm Professor DM, and today on Dungeon Craft, the new 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide. What are the changes? Are they important? Do you need to get it? Do you need to get it if you have the 2014 rulebook? Is it just a cash grab? And what do the new tariffs influence it? Find out now on Dungeon Craft. Right? I don't know. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? If I'm going to do anything with Professor DM, I'm going to like kidnap. He's a fellow Jersey boy. I'm going to kidnap that guy, right? Take him out somewhere and hunt him for sport. Kidding. I'm kidding. Come on. Come on. Come on. I'm going to do it to his kid. Come on. Hey, come on. His kid can kick my ass. Come on. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, no, he took a picture. He knew who Scott Garibay was. He took a picture with him at that convention, right? Little did he know that despite taking a picture with him at that convention, that J.Scott Garibay was going to still throw him under the bus for having the audacity of saying that the new the new edition of Dungeons and Dragons was not selling gangbusters. Meanwhile, FYI, and in case you're curious, I'm not buying the monster manual because apparently the monster manual sucks. But I can tell you, I haven't read the whole thing all the way through, either the Dungeon Master's Guide or the Player's Manual. Okay. But from what I have read of the new 2024 edition of the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Player's Manual, they're fucking fire. They're much better than the 2014 edition. I mean, the Player's book that I've read the most of, it kicks. It really is. If you're going to play fifth edition, buy the 2024 book. That would be my advice. What do I know? I just spent 2 hours and 15 minutes watching J.Scott Garibay videos when I was supposed to be at work, right? Shows you where my head's at. Anyway. Genocide! Pathfinder 2nd edition is haram. Who's that guy on Roll for Combat? Member of the tribe. That guy can eat a dick. Okay? Pathfinder 2nd edition. Nobody plays Pathfinder 2nd edition. Not nobody. Nobody's. Nobody. X9 Prime. I'm not buying WotC until they tone down their libtardery, and that would take Elon Musk buying Hasbro. Oh, X9 Prime. You get back to Ukraine. Right at the border. Right? Closer to the border. I hear Putin's looking for a new limo driver. Ah. Elon Musk was going to buy Hasbro, but I don't know if he can afford it anymore. Meanwhile, if I'm shopping for a new car, I might be able to afford a Cybertruck. I got some change in my pocket. I like to risk it all. I kid. I gotta get out of here, folks. I love you. If nobody told you they loved you today, someone just told you twice. Okay? I love J.Scott Garibay. He's gonna make. I predict he's uploaded 2 videos already. I predict at least 2 more. I know. X-Nard Prime. I know. I get it. I get it. I hope you get it too, Genocide. All the love. Before we get too far out there, a troll. All in good fun. Under the bridge with the lot of you, right? There's milk and cookies down there, I swear. Okay? And that white paneled bus, let's get in there. There's puppies in there. Then J.Scott Garibay. Let's get back to work. Talk to you later.